What would you say would be a good, simple first step for someone who's feeling lost or stuck right now, and they want to just kind of begin to understand how they can take the steps to feel better?
I'd always start with physical health because once you actually feel better, a lot of the other problems become easier to solve, like whether it's relationships or work. And so um, I think um, easy things for people to try is to just move your body every day. Try and do at least 5,000 steps a day as a start, but ideally you're doing some zone 2 cardio, which is when your heart rate's kind of around like 100 to 130, and so you're burning off some of that energy. It'll help you sleep better. You'll feel better. So moving your body, um, eating non-processed foods. This is a very complicated area where it's unclear to know exactly what what is playing a role. But I would recommend moving away from processed foods, seed oils, and gluten. Like if you were going to try just some big sweeping changes, you end up just eating things like steak and fish and and vegetables. Um, just see how it feels. I mean, for some people the effect is dramatic. For others it isn't. But putting actual real foods in your body is great. I think trying a paleo style diet usually gets people feeling better. And then when it comes to sleep, this will sound silly, but it's just like prioritize sleep in your life. Lower the temperature. Put your thermostat between 68 and 71. Find the right temperature for you. Sleep cool. Eliminate screens before you go to bed because they suppress your melatonin. And just see how you feel with improved sleep. Some physical activity and good food. Um, I think because I mean I think people can relate to this. Like if you are actually sleeping better and you wake up, things seem less stressful. You seem, complicated issues start to become less complicated. So I would start with health first, and then go and address the life issues.
We're in this loneliness crisis right now where people are just feeling more lonely than ever. How can people begin to untangle that to improve their mental health?
I'm trying to figure out which way to get at this. I'm going to go at this, maybe for younger people now. So I think one of the issues with so much, social media and Netflix and things like that, it can make it really like we never really have to deal with being bored anymore. And if you can, remove the apps from your phone or find some app to kind of block them when you're just, moving through your life, you will be bored and you'll actually interact more with the people around you. And so it's good to be bored. And that can drive you towards approaching people and talking more. I also think doing work that you actually like is really important for being connected, especially if you're a man, and you're spending for a man and a woman, if you spend a lot of time at work, if you're doing things that you actually like, you're going to come across people who have similar values to you, and it'll be a lot easier to connect with them. Um, that's what I've found personally in my life, and it's just socialization is like a muscle that you have to work out. um, I would try and push yourself into just interactions with people to build those connections. It's a muscle that has become incredibly atrophied, where people stay at home and they just communicate online. Wave at someone across the room in the bar. Just be like, hey, you look nice. I wanted to come and meet you. Even if that person totally rejects you and turns away, you've learned that you're not going to die, and it's okay. And you may meet some people who are nice. I mean, you can do that in a library. You can do that anyway, but to just kind of push yourself into being, social. It's a skill set, just like anything else. I know that was kind of a random jumble of thoughts. I haven't been asked that question in a while, but those are some of my thoughts. I mean, Doug, what do you think? I know you do some of this, coaching, and you're helping people. What's your perspective on loneliness and social isolation?
I mean, I think technology it's just like anything. There's a lot of amazing things that come with it, and there's a lot of negative things, right? I think in many ways technology has replaced in-person relationships for certain people, and you're just like, you're sending like a text, or you're sending a snap, or you're sending this, or you're sending that, and it's like the way we communicate is just so different. I mean, and I just think from the way I understand the brain, like it's just like changing the brain, because now it's just like more instant gratification. You have to, like, you're waiting for a response like right away. If you want food, you know, take out like the hunter gatherer conversation, because I wasn't alive back then, so I can't relate. But the fact of the matter is, I used to, when I was younger, you'd have to, like, save some money or work, get a paycheck, go to the grocery store, come up with, write down a list on a piece of paper, hope you remember the list, and then figure out what you needed at the store, come home, and that was it. Now, I mean, you can put, your groceries, you can order groceries through an app, you can order fast food through an app, you can put things on a credit card. I think now you can maybe even finance some of this stuff. So it's just like the instant gratification trap is way more addictive now than ever. And I think, coming back to the conversation about isolation, I just think it gets in the way of people's ability to be intentional and focused when they're in person to person, when they're in person, because no matter what, that's a skill that is way, as long as we're human beings, you're going to have to manage and master interpersonal relationships if you want to succeed in life, no doubt. I think that when people don't do the work on themselves, they end up finding themselves in relationships they don't want to be in. They end up finding themselves wanting to fit in, to look cool, or to like get attention. And they end up finding themselves miserable spending time with people, even though they have people around them. And I think that's a conversation that doesn't get talked about as much as like the typical loneliness where you're like in your room with no friends, right? Is that people are just unaligned in life. They don't feel connected to themselves. They don't feel connected to the people in their life. And so I think the hack to that, is just doing the work on yourself, where you're understanding who you are, your values, your morals, what you want in life, your goals, and then kind of orchestrating the people around you to kind of mimic that in some way, while also obviously allowing for like people who disagree with you, like the people that I have in my life. I mean, I don't agree with them on everything, but there's some level of common themes, that, I love being around people who are independent thinking, independent thinkers or critical thinkers. Like, I don't want someone that just agrees with everything I say. And I don't want to be, it's hard to be around people that don't challenge your thinking, or they don't like think for themselves. I mean, and that can have many flavors to it, right? And so the way to address loneliness is to address the relationship with yourself. And then once you do that, I mean, there's a good chance you're going to end up having pretty good relationships in your life. And obviously there's the people that still like just can't get out of their own way and they feel stuck. But that, I don't think, is as common as the people that just need to work on themselves, and that'll in turn improve the relationships they have.
For men, I feel like relationships is almost like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as you kind of go, it's more complex as you go up. I think at the bottom, it's just you have to physically be healthy first, and then I think for men, and you might not like this, but this is just the reality. A lot of the way society looks at men is, what value do you bring to the table? Are you someone that has your life together? Are you, someone, you know who you are, you know what you stand for? Usually that goes along with having some direction in your career, which is the main way that you help others and people in the world. And as you kind of go up and you have those things in order, you will naturally be around better people. And it's not just you can't just have your life in order and say, oh, I make this much money and I have a great career. Then you need to actually bring in the other skill, which is like actually putting yourself out there and meeting people. Because it's not just being around people; it's being around people that you actually like. It's not just getting a girlfriend; it's getting a girlfriend that's a good girlfriend. And the only way you kind of do that is by being brave enough to kind of put yourself out into those situations and meet people. And eventually you're like, I like this, I don't like that. and you have these experiences, and you can do that in your romantic life, and you can do that in just your platonic friendships. um, but you will, if you just grab onto the first set of friends or the people from high school or the first girl that you meet, there's a good chance that might not be the right fit for you. And the only way you're going to find the right fit for you is if you're actually out there interacting with a lot of people. There's no shortcut to this. Yes, I know some people get lucky, but most of us don't. You really need to go out there and have those experiences. And a good partner in a friendship group is one of the most important things in your life, and it's worth years of effort to really kind of figure these things out.
Right. And I think if you're not fully confident with yourself, or you're not being validated in your own life, you will search for quantity and not quality when it comes to friendships, because you'll need more like attention, and more kind of validation from a bunch of different people, instead of like using your friendships as an extension of what you're already doing. And I've often said that I think that people need to spend time with people who have common futures and not common pasts. Like you see so many times where it's like people are in their 40s still talking to people that like they partied in college with, and that's the only like real through line, is that they partied together in college. It's not like they then kind of grew up and then like they have kids. This other family has kids and now their kids are friends. It's not. It's more like, no, we just like were in a fraternity together like 20 years ago, and like that was their friendship, and it's like meaningless. And it's not to say that you can't be friends with people you went to college with. It's more like, what's the depth of those relationships? Is it a relationship because you just feel like guilty, like not cutting them off, or is it a relationship you feel like you know you have to have them around for some reason, or whatever it is? Like I just think you have to ask yourself like hard questions. I think I've said this on the show a few times, and Jordan Peterson, he says like, if your life isn't where you want it to be, start telling yourself the truth, or something. It's something like that. And radical honesty, I think, goes a long way. And I think you have to be able to have those hard conversations with yourself, because that will ultimately move the needle. Like what I'm sharing right now isn't to shame or judge anyone. It's more like, I've lived through this. I mean, I spent years trying to be friends with everyone. I spent years trying to like keep people in my life just for the sake of like not, feeling bad or whatever. And it was just such a waste of time and energy, and just the amount of work it took emotionally. It was like I could have been spending my time doing so many other things.
I mean, for me, I've experienced just that as well. And I've done jobs which I really didn't enjoy. Well, they were interesting, but my heart really wasn't in them. And I'd be like, I'm lonely, and I'd be thinking about people that I used to go out and party with and have a good time with from in the past, but we really didn't have anything in common. And a lot of that goes away. And this is why this is why not settling with work and trying to find something that you really believe in can be important, because I feel like male friendships are formed by like shared experiences, right? And you get to a certain point in your life when you have kids, and you guys aren't going out on a wild night and laughing about things that happened. A lot of the shared experience is like actually things that you're working on together. And so I really like when you work in person with people who are aligned with what you're doing and your mission, and you like that, you will have a lot of these spontaneous enjoyable moments where you kind of laugh, and you're just like, what happened with this client, that's so funny. And that's kind of what we're designed to do. I mean, we used to get up in the morning and go out with our tribe and go and get food. We had a mission. It was, we were going out and hunting together, and you were just kind of bonded in that way. But if you're just working at some bank or some engineering firm because your parents told you to do that, or just something that you don't really care about, you're not going to have this mission that you share with people, where you form these connections through this shared experience. And when you do, the relationships become a lot less forced. I mean, they just become natural because you're sharing things together. So I think in-person work with people that you actually like. I mean, this could be on a construction site. If you're just like, this is what I love to do, like it will just you'll just feel better, and it will be easier to be connected.